Hello students. Today I am going to talk on translation. Translation means protein synthesis. The DNA is transcribed to mRNA, which is translated into protein with the help of ribosomes. Translation is a cytoplasmic process. The mRNA synthesized in the nucleus is transported to the cytoplasm, where the mRNA is translated from 5' to 3' end. For convenience, translation can be divided into the following stages. Requirement for components, activation of amino acid, initiation, elongation, termination, and post-translational modifications. First, we'll see what are the requirements, what are the components which are required for translation. Amino acids. There are around 20 amino acids found in protein structures. 10 are essential amino acids which have to be provided through the diet, and 10 are synthesized in the body. Protein synthesis can occur only when all the amino acids needed for a particular protein are available. If there is a deficiency, protein synthesis will not occur. That means translation will stop. In prokaryotes, there is no requirement of amino acids since all the 20 amino acids are synthesized from the inorganic components. Then ribosomes are required. Ribosomes are the centers or factories for protein synthesis. Prokaryotes, they are 70S type. Eukaryotes, 80S. Each ribosome consists of two subunits, one big and the other one small. The functional ribosome has two sites, A and P. A is the site which is the site for binding of amino acyl tRNA, and P is the site for binding of peptidyl tRNA during the course of translation. A site is also known as acceptor site and P site as the donor. In case of eukaryotes, there is a third site that is known as the E site or the exit site. So, in eukaryotes, there will be three sites, P, A and E. The term polyribosomes. Polyribosome is used when several ribosomes simultaneously translate on a single mRNA. This is the mRNA. If you can see, this mRNA has many ribosomes. So, this is known as polyribosomes. We see this in eukaryotes so that translation occurs fast. Then, apart from this, amino acids and ribosomes, translation also requires mRNA, tRNA. Now, those who haven't seen my video on structures of RNA, please see that so that you will have a better idea of translation. Okay, so first see the structure of mRNA and tRNA, and then see translation. Okay. mRNA, now mRNA is the, here in mRNA, the specific information required for the synthesis of a given protein is present on the mRNA. You have seen my video, so then you will know that the DNA has passed on the genetic information in the form of codon to mRNA. Now this mRNA will, in this translation process, will translate into a protein sequence. Okay, and tRNA in this translation they carry the amino acids and hand them over to the growing peptide. Apart from this, energy, ATP and GTPs are required, and then many protein factors are required. These protein factors are needed for initiation, elongation, termination of protein synthesis. The protein factors are more complex in eukaryotes and compared to prokaryotes. So when we are seeing each of the steps, we will see, I will talk about the protein factors in details at that time. Now the next step is activation of amino acids. This is the structure of tRNA. So as I said, first see the structure of tRNA in my previous slide. Okay. This is a 3' end, this is the 5' end. 3' end is the place where the specific amino acids bind. This is the anticodon. So this anticodon will recognize the codon on the mRNA. Okay, and the anticodon, that specific amino acid will be bound over here. So in activation of amino acids, there are 2 steps. Okay, so in the first, here if you see a group of amino acids, they are known as amino acyl tRNA synthesized. These amino acids are highly specific for the amino acid and the corresponding tRNA. Here ATP is required and it is hydrolyzed into AMP. So this first step is that this amino acid will first bind with this enzyme and then utilizes the ATP to form enzyme AMP amino acid complex, and then it transfers the amino acid to the tRNA and to form amino acyl tRNA. So now if you can see on the 3' end, the amino acid is bound. So this is the active form of tRNA, or you can say the activated amino acid, because it is bound over here and the tRNA. This is known as amino acyl tRNA. Initiation of translation. Initiation of translation in eukaryotes is complex, involving at least 10 eukaryotic initiation factors. It is also short form as EIFS. Some of the initiation factors contain multiple, around 3 to 8 subunits. The process of translation can be further divided into ribosomal dissociation, formation of 43S pre-initiation complex, formation of 48S initiation complex, and formation of 80S initiation complex. First is ribosomal dissociation. Here if you see 80S in the eukaryotes, 80S is dissociated, ribosome has been dissociated into 40S and 60S. This 40S, now 2 initiation factors, eukaryotic initiation factors, 3 and 1A bind to the newly formed 40S subunit and thereby block its reassociation with 60S subunit. Some also call this as the anti-association factor. This 3 is also known as the anti-association factor. So that these, because of binding of these 2 eukaryotic initiation factors, 40S and 60S does not reassociate. Now the next step is the formation of 43S pre-initiation complex. So for this, a ternary complex has to be bound with the 40S. So now we will see how the ternary complex is formed. The initiation factors 3 and 1A has already been bound. Apart from this, there is another initiation factor 2, 2B. Now 2A, 2 if you see it is, this is empty. The reason is it is not bound with GTP. so that it has been shown as NT. Now with the black dot, it is shown as that GTP will give its energy for this process. So now it is 2B, and with 2, this will then form the initiation factor 2C, and along with methionine tRNA. This tRNA will contain methionine over here in the anticodon, here on the 3' end. The reason is this is the first amino acid which will be recognized by AUG, and that's why the first tRNA will always be meth tRNA, that is methionine tRNA. Okay, now this forms with the these initiation factors, it will form the ternary complex. So this is the ternary complex formation. Now this ternary complex will then bind with this 40S with the 3 and 1A initiation factors and form the 43S pre-initiation complex. Okay, so this along with the ternary complex, so this all these together forms the ternary complex, and this is known as the 43S pre-initiation complex. Okay, here if you can see, there is the tRNA with the methionine and the 3 initiation complex, 3 initiation factors. Okay, so this is the 43S pre-initiation complex. Now next step is the formation of 48S initiation complex. Now for the 40S initiation complex, this pre-initiation complex binds with the mRNA. So for that, mRNA has to be activated. Now we'll see how activation of mRNA occurs. This is the mRNA with the cap, the initiation codon AUG and the poly A tail. Okay, so this mRNA first has to be bound with 4F. This 4F complex, this is another initiation factor. This initiation factors is in turn formed along with 4E initiation factor, 4G, 4A. All together, all the three together will form the initiation factor, that is a eukaryotic initiation factor 4F. 4F is required to recognize the cap. So 4F will bind the cap and it will bind the cap of the mRNA, and for this energy in the form of ATP is required. Then further energy is required again for the for 4A and 4B initiation factors are also bound with the mRNA, and this will lead to the activation of mRNA. Here if you see, energy is given by ATP. So now this mRNA, this is the active form of mRNA. This will bind with the 43S pre-initiation complex. Okay, so here you can see. Now after the activation of the mRNA, it will bind the 43 pre-initiation complex. Now we will see how the this is bound. So can you see, it has this activated mRNA will bind the 43S pre-initiation complex. Now there is a codon. If you see, the initiation codon is AUG. This has to be recognized by this initiation complex. So for this, there is a sequence. This sequence is known as the Kozak consequence sequence in the eukaryotes, and it is known as the Sheen-Dalgarno sequence in prokaryotes. This sequence will recognize that this AUG, this initiation codon on the mRNA, and then it will recognize and bind it. So this tRNA, this will get bound with the initiation codon. This requires energy, and can you see now it has recognized and bound. So eukaryotes has the recognition initiation codon, that is Kozak sequence, while in prokaryote it is Sheen-Dalgarno sequence. So this forms the 48 initiation complex. Okay, so can you see the mRNA has been recognized by the tRNA. Okay, and it has bound it, and this forms the 48S initiation complex. Now, this next step is the formation of 80S initiation complex. Now, this 60S will bind with the 40S, and that forms the 80S initiation complex. So, when this is bound, what happens is all these initiation factors are released. These initiation factors are released and they are recycled. So if you remember, I had shown you the ternary complex for the formation of ternary complex. So this now here for the formation of 80S, that is a binding of 40S and 60S, energy from the from this initiation factor 2. This is having the GTP, the energy. If you remember here, can you see? The energy was given to the initiation factor 2. That energy was utilized for the association of the 40S and 60S to form the 80S initiation complex. And if you can see, now there is no energy. Okay, so that's why there is an empty. I had told you in the previously that this GTP will give its energy and then it will become that black dot. For convenient purpose, I have shown it in this way. And this initiation factor 2 also requires 2B so that it helps in binding of GTP. So once that GTP gives out its energy to 2 initiation factors, 2B is released, and then 2 along with initiation factor 2C, it will bind the tRNA and forms the ternary complex, and then again the whole process will start. So this is how the 80S initiation complex was formed. And if you see, this is the P site and this is the A site. Now we will see elongation of translation. Here the polypeptide chain, there will be elongation of the polypeptide chain by addition of amino acid. The amino acid sequence is added in the order of the codon in the specific mRNA. So elongation you can divide into 3 steps. First is the binding of amino acyl tRNA to A site, peptide bond formation, and translocation. So first we will see binding of amino acyl tRNA to A site. Now, if you see the 80S initiation complex, it contains the methionine tRNA in the P site and the A site is free. Now, this is the another amino acyl tRNA. Now, this will be placed in A site after it is specifically that codon is recognized on the mRNA. This codon has to be recognized by the tRNA. Its complementary tRNA will come and bind over here. Okay, and here for this energy is required, that is it is GTP is used, and the elongation factor used is 1A. Okay, so now next will be the peptide bond formation. Okay, now in peptide bond formation, now this has already this has been placed over here. Now these 2 amino acids, the first one and the second one. Now once the second one is recognized and bound over here on the A side, then a peptide bond formation will occur between these 2 amino acids, the methionine and the one on the A side. For this, enzyme peptidyl transferase is required. This enzyme is there on the 28S RNA of 60S ribosomal subunit, and that's the reason the ribosomal RNA is known as is referred to as ribozyme. Okay, so the peptide bond formation occurs between here. This methionine will bind with over here. Okay, it will move here and form a peptide bond. So can you see here? This has moved from here to here and it has formed a peptide bond. Okay, so this is how the peptide bond formation occurs. So now this has moved from here, from the P side to the A side. Okay. The next step is translocation. As the peptide bond formation occurs, here if you see the peptide bond formation occurs, the ribosomes will move to the next codon of the mRNA. It moves towards the ribosome will move towards the 3' end. And this process is called the translocation. So what will happen? Basically, it is the movement of the growing peptide. This growing peptide chain from A side to P side. Okay, so this is the translocation. Here, the elongation factor 2 and GTP energy is required. And if you see here, first it was this growing, this peptide chain on the tRNA was on the A side. It has moved to the P side. Okay, and then this, the one which was there, the deacylated tRNA, here, this on the P side is then moved to E, and then finally it is removed from the ribosome. Okay, and this way, so this is now empty, the A side. So like the this again, this whole process can occur. Again, a tRNA will be recognized by the codon, and the specific tRNA can bind over here, and then again peptide bond formation occurs, and this way the elongation, or you can say the more amino acids will be bound and this polypeptide will grow. Okay, so this is how elongation occurs. This elongation will occur depending upon the protein or the polypeptide chain. So the number of amino acids is required, and then in that way, then cycles will change. Okay. Now it has been estimated that around 6 amino acids per seconds are incorporated during the elongation process in eukaryotes, while in prokaryotes it is around 20 amino acids per seconds are incorporated during this elongation process. Okay, so this was about the elongation. Now the next is the termination. Termination is a simple process in compared to the initiation and the elongation. After several cycles of elongation, that is the incorporation of amino acid and the formation of the polypeptide or the proteins, one of the stop codon, or you can see the termination signal UAG, UAA or UGA is bound on this. So the this termination codon, this doesn't have any specific tRNA to bind. So as the termination codon occupies the ribosomal A site, the releasing factor recognizes the stop signal. The releasing factor and the GTP complex, it will recognize this, and in association with the enzyme peptidyl transferase, cleaves the peptide bond over here between the polypeptide and the tRNA, occupying the P site. This is the P site. So it will cleave over here. In this reaction, here, as there is no tRNA to bind over here, water molecule will be bound. And because of that, this will hydrolyze and it will release the polypeptide and the tRNA. Again, energy is required and it will dissociate the 80S ribosomes into 40S and 60S subunits, and then later on this is recycled. Even the mRNA is also released. Okay, so this was about the termination of translation. Inhibitors of protein synthesis. Antibiotics, that is the anti-infective agents, they selectively act on bacterial ribosomes and are harmless to higher organisms. This is due to the fact that the process of translation in prokaryotes and eukaryotes are sufficiently different. Okay, so that's why the antibiotics will act on the prokaryotes and it will be harmful to humans. So now let's see some of the antibiotics which are inhibitors of the protein synthesis. Streptomycin, initiation inhibited by misreading of mRNA. So the normal pairing between the codon and anticodon is affected, and this leads to inhibition of translation. Tetracycline, it inhibits amino-acyl tRNA binding to A site on ribozymes. Puromycin, it is an analog to amino-acyl tRNA. Hence, it acts on all ribosomes, both prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Chloramphenicol, it is competitive inhibitor of enzyme peptidyl transferase. It interferes elongation peptide chain. Erythromycin, it inhibits translocation by binding with 58th subunit of bacterial ribosome. So these are some of the inhibitors of protein synthesis. So that was about the translation. Apart from inhibitors of protein synthesis, you can also mention in your short note on translation about post-translational modification. Okay, so that I will be taking in my next video. So I'll put a link below this video so you can you can see my next video on post-translational modification. So as I said in my lecture, those who haven't seen the structures, haven't read the structures of RNA, please have a look. I'll give a description below this video for the structure of RNA also. Okay, so that was about the translation and inhibitors of protein synthesis. So thank you so much. Do like my video and do subscribe. Those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe so that you will get updates of my latest videos. Okay, thank you so much.